Welcome, everyone. I am the Hipster Snek, and today we'll be doing something a bit out of the ordinary. Rounding off the trifecta of programming I plan to bring on this channel, barring the possibility of patron requests in the future, but I'll burn that bridge when I come to it. Today, we'll be launching the first episode of Snek Sweets, where I take the rare off chance to throw off my previous restrictions and let myself talk about any game for any reason. Today, we're going to start with a game that, according to Steam, I have over 300 hours of experience with. So I think that means I'm not a total rookie anymore. Today, we look at Warframe. Originally launching in 2013 and developed by Digital Extreme Studio, Warframe is essentially an action-adventure, third-person shooter game with a strong squad-based cooperative PvE focus that occasionally pretends it's an MMORPG. That's not confusing at all, is it? Yeah, and that sort of sets the mood for all things to come, good and bad alike. What I mean by that is, you'll want to bring or make friends on your journey and build a squad of capable frames, collectively referred to as the Tenno. You'll band together in order to re-establish the connections across the Milky Way galaxy, starting from a remote, hidden place on Earth, where you kick off your adventure with a chosen starter frame, from one of three options: Excalibur, Mag, and Volt. No, there is no best choice. Pick the one that you think sounds cool. Once you get going, you'll be guided by a mysterious woman called the Lotus, though you can just do what the rest of us Tenno do and call her Mom. And there's also Cephalon Ortis, our, quirky AI companion who runs our cozy dropship. With their guidance, you'll fight for the sake of those who cannot, and press back against several factions of power-hungry races of beings who will stop at nothing to rule the galaxy. First of all, this game just looks amazing. The graphical engine's actually undergone numerous overhauls with new shiny bits, literal and figurative in this sense, and even levels that amount to narrow corridors have a truly epic scope and feel to them. All missions load all in one go, so as soon as your feet hit the floor, you're free to explore to your heart's content. There are dozens of tile sets that paint each level, and by extension, each level is made up of procedurally generated rooms linked seamlessly together. Yeah, you'll eventually begin recognizing certain areas as you play through various missions, but not such that you'll be able to navigate an entire mission blindfolded or anything like that. Each time you play, it's essentially a whole new map, and given how long some of these missions can be, that's saying something. Both the world and you will look great while you're doing it. Fashion frame is a huge part of the game, so be sure to customize the colors and appearances of, well, literally everything. From your frames down to the individual tips of your arrows that no one will ever actually see, except that Grenier you'll plug in the face with it. That sentence was horribly worded. I hope my point still got across. Much like it did when I plunked that arrow into that Grenier's face. Trust me, you're gonna look great. Audio-wise, the game is every bit as shiny, figuratively of course. As a rather interesting bit of trivia, I've read that the voice actors are different staff from Digital Extremes who flex into the roles of each character. A very clever and affordable way to make your game all the more of a passion project, which Warframe already reeks of in the best way possible. The music is everything the broad and vast solar system should be, ambient and hauntingly beautiful, or frenetic and blood-pumpingly furious. Every weapon, every footstep, even the strange alien languages spoke by the equally strange enemies you'll face, the sound design in Warframe is divine. Though sometimes the alien language can also be unintentionally hilarious, especially when it sounds like that Grenier soldier just called me a son of a cook, or brags about his sword of Clem. But what really makes Warframe stand out from the crowd is the gameplay. The sheer movement mechanics alone put any other MMO I can think of to shame. You're able to bullet jump on command, double jump everywhere, scale walls like a hyperactive spider Tenno, slide under closing doors like a rock star. It just feels fantastic to move around. And since the game wants players to think three-dimensionally, you'll often be tasked with scaling multiple floors of dynamic worlds you visit in order to find the best way through. Or the fastest way through, depending on situation. While this varies depending by mission type, you'll find yourself sailing through the air and sneaking along the shadows on the ground in equal measure, depending on playstyle. In fact, let's cover the different mission types, as they'll help you get a better handle on what you can expect from the gameplay. The first missions you'll become familiar with are simple extermination missions. You just have to wipe out a certain preset number of enemies and then get to an end goal after meeting the quota. Capture missions are when a fleeing target of roughly mini-boss level of stats is key to winning. You defeat them, and you capture them, and then you successfully extract, and you'll win, but you'll lose if they get too far ahead. Defense and survive missions have you killing limitless waves of bad guys before you extract. The key difference being defense missions have a goal you're supposed to protect, and you're allowed the chance to extract every 5 or 10 waves, whereas in Survive, you're timed in 5-minute increments and rewarded each time, but you can extract any point after the 5-minute mark, all the while managing a countdown timer. Excavations are kinda like defense, except that the thing you're defending only will last a few minutes before you'll move to a new spot and you get a distinct resource known as cryotic, which, if you're going for certain things, will require entirely too much of the stuff. Spy and sabotage missions involve sneaking into various bases and ships and hacking databases, though in the latter, you also get to blow up enemy ships in various creative ways, so I think they're cooler even if it just feels amazing to ninja past enemies on your spy missions. Rescue missions involve stealthing into a prison and liberating a hostage, which requires equal parts stealth and combat prowess, or at least being fast enough to compensate for the other, and some small portion of luck because the AI can oftentimes be incredibly stupid and get itself killed for no good reason. And lastly, Archwing missions are like playing 3-dimensional bumper cars in a shopping cart. I get what they were going for, but if Archwing mission isn't extermination, it's a coin flip as to whether you're going to make it or not. There are, of course, lots of other types, but to cover them would take too long. Being that there's technically over 21 types without getting into special variations like nightmare missions, super challenging iterations of each mission type. But no matter what you're doing, your loadout will look roughly similar in each. You'll have your Warframe, obviously, which dictates things like health and shields and powers, a main weapon, a sidearm, a melee weapon, and possibly an assistant like a robot or a pet alien dog or cat thing. Personally, mine looks something like this. My favorite frame is Oberon, who can both heal and attack and has solid stats all around. Then my main weapon comes from the shotgun family because I believe in being subtle. My favorite sidearm is this automatic pistol here, and my melee weapon of choice are polearms, and my assistant's this little dragon buddy here. He wears a mask just like Mom does. The beauty of Warframe is not only do you get to customize like crazy, but that you can get everything seen here and then some without ever spending a real-world dime. Warframe is true free-to-play. Mostly because there's no pay-to-win option. It's more like you're paying to grind slightly less. Let's touch on that next, actually. Warframe is very grindy, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. Every piece of equipment, from your frame to your weapons to your little buddy chasing after your lightning-quick heals, has a rank, which slightly boosts its stats when raised. Killing enemies, completing tasks, and finishing mini-missions all give you affinity, which acts like a Warframe's experience points. In addition, as an item ranks up, it gains a greater capacity, allowing for Tenno to insert additional mods. Mods are these playing card-looking things that can greatly expand a frame or weapon's power. In fact, very early in the game, you'll get your hands on mods with the potential to double a given frame's health and shields, or a mod that will just add plus 90% killing power to any weapon it's slotted into. Yes, seriously. And it doesn't even take that much to get them that good. You'll rapidly outgrow the flawed mods and use the consistently dropped and consistently good regular mods well into in-game. There are superior mods, but even at the 300-hour mark, I only own one of these myself, as they require, you guessed it, plenty of grinding, but not a penny out of your wallet. This is a thing that's very easy to romanticize about Warframe. While many other companies are in trouble for unethical and consumer-hostile practices, Digital Extremes goes out of their way to keep the game fair, and any actual cash purchases matter. Not just that, but coupons for their in-game currency, Platinum, are regular and quite potent, allowing players to circumvent grind to some degree. I'll be honest, the frame, Chroma, is a lot of work to get legitimately, and I salute anyone who managed it, but I was happy to support DE with some money, and I got Chroma much earlier in the game than I should have otherwise. However, this doesn't imbalance the game, or give me anything that other players don't inherently have access to. It merely expedited one process. Another example of this is a mechanic that had a random result that cost a small sum of platinum to activate was actually removed from the game because the devs saw people were using it too much. There is no way I can't respect that level of ethical business and game design. To give you an idea, say you want the frame Rhino. Rhino is a big, solid frame, and you can get him very early in your game time. All you have to do is find out what it takes to build him and who/what drops the blueprint. Every Warframe requires 4 blueprints to complete, and each part requires some number of resources to build. Once you make your plan and put it into action, you may need to grind out a particular boss fight to get the blueprints, or you may need to grind for credits or resources. But you do all these each time you run a mission, so the gameplay and the grind all feed into one another. so grinding is rarely a waste of your effort. And the cool thing is, going back to our example of Rhino, is that a lot of early game content is viable well into the end game so long as you get the mods. Warframe is an investment in time, obviously, but even grinding is still very action focused. Sure, you may enter a survival mission with the intended purpose of killing things for half an hour, and you might get that one rank 3x gal who jumps in and wastes the party slot by extracting after 5 minutes. Seriously, don't do that, that's super rude. But you'll also be picking up additional mods, resources, finding goodies, and getting familiar with map elements by traversing them time and again. Everything you're doing, whether you're aware of it or not, is sharpening you into a better Tenno. The grind itself may be the very best thing for you. Going back to our earlier example, at the tail end of Venus, you can fight a boss multiple times to get the blueprints for our buddy Rhino. Then, when you get Rhino, you can grind him up. This expands his capacity. Doing this also raises your mastery rank, which unlocks additional weapons and frames for you to unlock. In gaming terms, this is both your through line and the gameplay loop that makes up the body of your Warframe experience, and I love every single moment of it. Are there flaws? Well, yes, every game has flaws, but there's 3 to be exact. The first being that the tutorials are absolutely garbage at teaching a newcomer how to play. The systems and mechanics have been refined so many times over that the tutorial, which looks to me like it hasn't really been changed since the game's debut, fails to mention several vital key mechanics that you'll really want to know, like the bullet jump or exactly how wall bouncing works. You'll want to have the wiki open in another window the entire time you're playing, and probably a friend who knows the game and can explain the more intricate systems for you. To give just a small list of systems that the game doesn't really explain well but you'll want mastery of, these include Mods and Endo, the Junctions, Movement as a whole, Relics, the Traveling Trader, Baro Kitar, which is just how I say his name, Frame Construction and Drop Rates, the Faction System, Formas, Orokin Catalysts, and Orokin Keys and Derelicts. I'm sure there's others I'm forgetting, but those are just off the top of my head, and the game doesn't make any of them clear. Number 2, as said, are Archwing missions. Frankly, they need a pretty substantial overhaul. Cool in theory, in practice, exercise in futility. And lastly, this segment's going to get a little bit spoilery, so skip ahead to the listed timestamp unless you've at least cleared the mission named the Second Dream. Alright, so there are cinematic missions in this game. Some of those, like the Silver Grove or the Second Dream, are actually quite fun. Most of them, starting with every single one that chronologically follows Second Dream, are like getting my gum scraped. They introduce a series of side systems and mechanics that simply aren't fun, aren't intuitive, and actively detract from the game's namesake, use of warframes. They're very novel at first, and I rapidly tired of the strong mechanic focus on these systems, particularly during the Chains of Horror story event, which was one long eye roll of an experience. Seriously, the game tries to take on a horror atmosphere, but I'm playing as a robot space ninja with a shotgun strapped to my back. I'm not afraid of anything when I play this game, to say nothing of the fact that the entire story event is painful, a prolonged game of tag with someone who, by the end of it all, I've grown to hate a great deal. And then I learned I made the entire thing harder on myself because I hadn't bothered speaking to one out-of-the-way NPC back on Earth. That's so random. This also resulted in a strong push towards the post-game content of the open-world fields like the Plains of Eidolon, and more recently the fields on Fortuna. I really don't like these areas. Their random nature, the fact that they run entirely counter to the rest of the game, the random Grineer missile launchers that easily destroy weak players as soon as they arrive, their raid bosses, the Eidolons, who are not fun or rewarding to fight, as they simply drop things that result in a feedback loop to the start of this paragraph's complaints. You actively need to go into these high-level areas in order to get several low-level missions on Earth of all places. That's just cruel. Honestly, I feel the entire operator system would be better served being entirely removed from the game, or at least sidelined in such a way that it had fluffy plot significance but wasn't forced into the player's playtime to the entire detriment of the frames themselves. Okay, now that we have the negative out of the way, let's talk a bit about the story, what drives us Tenno to do what we do. Mostly kill a bunch of dudes in the name of grinding. We learn, as we progress, that the galaxy is largely broken up into 5 major factions. The Tenno, that's us. The Grineer, an almost insect-like collection of clones who mindlessly obey their queens. The Corpus, a group of half-machine humanoids who worship the concept of profit as a religion. The Infested, a viral agent that infects flesh and adds it to its horrifying collective. And then the rest of the solar system, people who would much rather be left alone, but typically get stomped underfoot by the Grineer or the Corpus. We're guided by Space Mom and Ortis in our galactic retaliation against these oppressive forces threatening the planets. That's what gives us our direction and ultimately sets the stage for the different mission types as we progress. That's really all I can say without getting into spoilers, but there's a beauty in learning the lore piece by piece at your own pace. There's an entire galaxy of stories to learn. Every frame, every faction, every NPC has a story to tell. At the end of the day, is Warframe worth playing? I've been singing its praises in a script longer than anything I've written for this channel before, and my complaints are all very minor in the grand scheme of things. Yes, go and play Warframe right now. It's on PC and all major consoles. It's free. What more do you people need? Play Warframe. Links to the official page and the well-maintained wiki listed in the video description below. It is absolutely amazing, it is worth your time, and if you get it on Steam, you might even run into me on there from time to time. It's absolutely worth the learning curve. Get it, play it, love it. Decide for yourself how much you think this game costs. This has been the Hipster Snek. If you liked today's video, please hit the like button down below. And if you want to know when more content like this is coming out, be sure to hit that subscribe and bell icon too. Leave a comment telling me what your favorite frame is. Join me next time as we delve into another obscure review. Be strong, Tenno, and do it for Space Mom.